can never forgive them for the death of my boy.
I was on the Saratoga at Wolf 359.
But you're not alone. You're part of the human community now.
I'm not ready to declare them a lost cause.
We are Hugh.
Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another Star Trek video. Last time on Treknalysis, I discussed the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Borg, and whether or not Picard should have used Hugh to destroy the Borg via a computer virus. Assuming they didn't have antivirus installed or something. But the dilemma is a very interesting damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Destroy the Borg with a virus, potentially saving billions of lives, but at the expense of someone rediscovering his individuality, or respect the individual rights of the one at the expense of the many. And ultimately, Picard does choose not to implant Hugh with the virus, instead using his newfound individuality as a virus to infect the Borg, with lousy results. But among the other 4 leading Star Trek captains, how would they have handled the events of Borg? Would they have reached the same conclusion as Captain Picard, or are they more willing to risk the needs of the one for the billions of lives in the Alpha Quadrant? Now, I'm gonna look at this in 2 parts for each captain. 1, whether or not they would have stopped to heal Hugh from the initial crash, and 2, whether or not they would have implanted him with the virus and sent him back to infect the collective. Once again, resistance is futile as we put the other Star Trek captains to the Borg test.
What do you think?
You.
No, not you. Hugh.
But before I go further, thanks for checking out my video. Make sure you like and subscribe for more of my Star Trek, video game, and other miscellaneous content. Keep those hailing frequencies open on the other social media sites, and a big thank you to my channel members for supporting the channel. If you'd like to buy me a cup of tea and support my work, consider joining up on my channel. Be great to have you aboard. Now, Captain Kirk is the only captain here who never had any interactions with the Borg. Unless you count Star Trek Legacy, and yeah, that mission felt a little shoehorned in.
Aside from the destructive power of a single molecule of Omega, it has destroyed subspace through a 3 light-year radius around the Lentaru sector.
I don't care if you can make it sing and dance. We're getting rid of it.
But we can deduce how Kirk would have acted in the case of Hugh based on his interactions with other aliens. Kirk does have a humanitarian streak to him, even going as far as to help those who previously worked against him. Within limits, he still marooned Khan on SETI Alpha 5.
This is SETI Alpha 5!
And Kirk does recognize the needs of the individual. Sure, we all know about Spock preaching the needs of the many, and Kirk would certainly have them in his ear, but he's also willing to go out of his way for the needs of the one, be they friend or silicon-based life form.
Well, what do we do? Just talk it over?
Now, considering Kirk was the guy who stopped to investigate a ship from the 1990s, a time of turmoil and boy bands, just to wake up one of the worst tyrannical leaders of that time, with a magnificent chest.
They're real and they're spectacular.
Sure, I can see him stopping to investigate a crashed Borg ship and even render aid to Hugh. Granted, probably because he doesn't know what the hell he's looking at. But what about using Hugh as a carrier for a virus to destroy the Borg, a galaxy-wide threat? Well, this is the same guy who was willing to let the Klingons die in Star Trek VI. Granted, he had personal reasons for saying that.
I can never forgive them for the death of my boy.
They are dying.
Let them die.
But given an even deadlier threat in the Borg, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch for Captain Kirk to implement the virus. But on the other hand, we have Hugh the individual, and if the episode Devil in the Dark is anything to go by, while Kirk is willing to defend his people, he will protect a peaceful individual against the mob, the needs of the one being preserved. Confronted with Hugh's growing individuality, not a mere member of the Borg collective, I think Kirk would find a different solution to preserve Hugh's rights while eliminating a deadly threat. I could see him maybe luring the Borg, going over to the Borg cube himself, and personally talking them to death. Like he has for so many computers before. Or maybe set a couple of charges like another Captain Kirk.
Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise.
Your dog tags say otherwise.
They're lying.
Now, as a survivor of Wolf 359, Sisko was personally affected by the Borg when his wife died in the attack, and he carried around that grief and anger for years, as Captain Picard could tell you.
I was on the Saratoga at Wolf 359.
It was at this moment he knew he f***ed up.
Like with Picard, the situation would hit a little close to home for Sisko, but unlike Picard, he's more willing to cross ethical boundaries, especially if the Alpha Quadrant is at stake. And on top of that, if the situation is particularly personal, he's gonna go that extra mile to get the job done more than any other assignment. For one thing, I don't think he would have helped Hugh in the wreckage in the first place. Or instead, he would have told Julian to get back to the ship. That's an order, Doctor! Because he's not gonna risk his ship to do it. If you look at the episode The Way of the Warrior, when the Defiant happened upon a bunch of wrecked Cardassian ships, sure, there could have been survivors, but the Defiant would have had to decloak to run scans with hostile Klingon ships nearby.
But sir, if there are survivors...
I'm sorry, Doctor, we can't risk it. We have to reach Dukat.
Fighting off a bunch of Klingon ships pales in comparison to the risks of straight up bringing a Borg on board to render medical aid, so I doubt Sisko would have done it, probably leaving the barely alive Hugh for dead or to be picked up by another Borg ship. But let's say he did and had the opportunity to implant Hugh with a virus to destroy the Borg, even with his budding individuality. I think he's perfectly capable of it. Granted, I don't think he would do it without a second thought. This is the same guy that tried to give the Jem'Hadar unit an out when they were stranded on a planet with a dwindling supply of Ketracel White.
Do you really want to give up your life for the order of things? It is not my life to give up, Captain, and it never was.
But in addition to his personal feelings about the Borg, which, even if he was able to move beyond his grief, it's more than likely still there, we did see him bring Eddington in for treason by poisoning a planet atmosphere, ultimately to stop him from using biogenic weapons against even more planets. And again, the personal betrayal made Ben even more determined to bring him in. He did his job as a Starfleet officer, but he went the extra mile on his own. Of course, it didn't help that he was egged on the entire time.
It's a book. One of my favorites. Les Miserables. Well, Javert, what are you really up to, Javert?
You know, in some ways, you're even worse than the Borg.
Yeah, it was his own damn fault he got arrested. We've also seen him deceive the Romulans into the Dominion War because he kept seeing those around him lose friends and family to the war, ultimately saving the Alpha Quadrant, and all it cost was the life of one Romulan senator, one criminal, and the self-respect of one Starfleet officer.
I don't know about you, but I'd call that a bargain.
So, could I see him approving a virus to be implanted in Hugh to take out the Borg once and for all, after he lost his wife to a Borg attack and saved the Alpha Quadrant in the process? Yep. Sure, he'll do his duty as a Starfleet officer to protect the Alpha Quadrant, but with that additional personal stake in it, he would be even more invested in the success of that mission. And yes, I can see Julian pushing back on this decision, but unlike Picard, Ben wasn't shy about telling his charming CMO to shut up and follow orders.
File an official protest with Starfleet Medical.
That is your right, but I want the gel by the end of the day. Dismissed.
Now, Captain Janeway is an interesting case, as she always seems to be, because in some ways, I can see her going either way with Hugh. Because on the one hand, there's 7 of 9. Successfully unassimilated from the collective and on her way to rediscovering her humanity. Something that Janeway was instrumental in. Heck, she even took in some Borg kids for about a year. In many ways, Janeway would be sympathetic to Hugh, having seen successful separations from the collective. But on the other hand, she can be particularly brutal when necessary when it comes to dealing with the Borg. Let's not count Admiral Janeway because she was technically from an alternate timeline. A timeline where she swore off coffee. The real Janeway would never pass up an opportunity to drink coffee.
Fresh coffee. Would you like a cup? No, I gave it up years ago. I only drink tea now. It's a changeling.
Now, Voyager has a history of taking side quests and stopping by planets to help when they would have been better off moving on. Because that's how Harry Kim got tormented by evil clowns. So I can see Janeway stopping by Hugh's wreckage, if only to learn more about Borg technology. And it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for her to render aid as well. Again, look at Seven and the Borg kids.
When you sleep, there are no other voices in your mind.
No.
The silence is unacceptable. We need the others.
I can't give you back to the Borg, but you're not alone.
But would she have used Hugh as a means of destruction against the Borg? Well, that's where things get a little tricky. Again, while we've seen her being ruthless against the Borg to protect her ship, we've also seen her witness Seven and the Borg kids rediscover their humanity. They're becoming individuals again. Because Hugh isn't unlike Voyager's former Borgs, I do think that Janeway would think twice about using him to deliver a virus. Like, who would she think she is, Icheb's mom? If anything, she would inject herself with a virus and get assimilated to bring the Borg down herself, or she would find a way to directly input the virus into the Borg cube. While I do think she would be capable of implanting Hugh with the Borg virus, I don't think that would be her first choice. Instead of using an unknowing participant to destroy his species, I think she would rather put herself at risk so no one else ends up getting hurt. Well, except for the Borg.
This is more than just a question of tactics. I'm concerned about your well-being.
Now, strangely enough, Captain Archer had a run-in with the Borg for an episode as a little cleanup to Star Trek First Contact. Which is kind of strange because he was before Kirk and shouldn't have encountered the Borg, but, you know, time travel.
I hate temporal mechanics.
Granted, in the episode Regeneration, he was ordered to investigate the Borg happenings in space and didn't know what he was dealing with, but we do see that Archer wanted to do everything possible to unassimilate his people and the Tarkalian traitors and only destroy the Borg ship as a last resort. That combined with what we know of him should be enough to determine how he would react to Hugh. First of all, would Archer have stopped to help Hugh in the wreckage? Oh, hell yes! He has a nasty habit of helping every hitchhiker he runs across, even against T'Pol's advice, inevitably leading to his being kidnapped or otherwise duped. Would Hugh's wreckage really be any different? Absolutely not, especially if he didn't know what he was dealing with.
My compassion guides my judgment.
Yeah, often to a fault. But as for implanting the virus, again, like a lot of things with Archer, it depends on how dire the circumstances are. I know I keep bringing up the Xindi arc in these videos, but it does show that Archer is capable of decisions he otherwise wouldn't consider if the survival of his ship or Earth is at stake. His compassionate nature would cause him to feel guilt over it later on, but if Earth was under direct threat from the Borg, sure, Archer is capable of ordering Hugh to be implanted with a virus and used as a means of destruction. But under more normal circumstances, say the Borg are a threat but Earth isn't in immediate danger and Hugh is rediscovering his individuality, I think Archer would be very hesitant. Granted, T'Pol, the one who said they need to destroy the Borg ship even with the chance of humans on board, would immediately start with the needs of the many.
And I don't want to hear any lectures about the needs of the many. I get enough of that crap from T'Pol.
But Archer's compassionate nature would override any advice from T'Pol. Heck, in Regeneration, he still wanted to save his crew on board the Borg ship. He wasn't willing to give up on them if they can be cured. Which it turned out they were too far gone. But on top of that, when you look at episodes like Dear Doctor, I don't think he would feel comfortable making big decisions like the one Picard considered with Hugh.
I'm going to have to remind myself every day that we didn't come out here to play God.
Confronted with the idea of whether or not they have the right to take out the Borg via Hugh, I would argue that Archer probably wouldn't have used the virus on Hugh. If there was an immediate Borg threat, I think he would probably opt for something closer to what Kirk would do. Only instead of talking a computer to death, he probably would plant a few explosives and get the hell out of there.
Sounds to me like we've only postponed the invasion until what? The 24th century?
Sir, do you mock me?
And here's all the captains and how I think they would react to Hugh. I do think that each of the other captains would take a more proactive approach than Picard, hoping that the knowledge of individuality takes care of the Borg. Sisko would probably take the more direct offensive approach, while Archer would probably lean the closest to Picard under normal circumstances. But now what about you? How do you think the other captains would have handled Hugh? Do you agree with my analysis, or do you think I'm missing something? And what other moral dilemma would you like to see the other captains handle? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another Star Trek video. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
You are Borg. You will assist us.